This is the Black Flag Running Club. I'm your head coach, Aaron Adranya, and you just signed up for one of our new programs. So before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about how you find all the resources that you need to understand how to get the most out of the club. So you may have seen in some of the content when you actually registered that it asked for your cell phone number. So this is how our communication is going to be working moving forward. So basically, on Monday mornings and on Friday mornings, you're going to receive a text message from us. In that text message, you are going to click on the link that's provided to you, and it's going to pull up an overview of everything that we've got planned for that week. So in this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about how you're going to navigate that information, where to look for the information that's most relevant to you, and how to be able to get the most out of the club through these links that we're going to be sending you to, again, on Mondays and on Fridays. So with that, let's take a look at how exactly the weekly posts are actually organized. Alrighty, so as we mentioned earlier, the first thing is that when you sign up for the Black Flag Running Club, the way that we communicate with all of our runners is through text message. So as we see here, we've received the text. At the very top, you can see it comes with a short code from the number 258-27. We'll be going through a little bit more later if you are not receiving the text messages about how to be able to resolve that. But when we get the message, we'll click on this. As we open it up, you'll see here listed as the need to know for the week that we're training in. And then we'll click on the following URL. And then that will take us to a page that looks something like this. Now, I'm using this actually on an iPad so you can see a little bit better as to what we're actually taking a look at. But this is generally what it's going to look like in a slightly modified form if you're utilizing it on your cell phone. So with there, let's take a look at what each one of these sections do. All right, so first and foremost, the need to know. So this is basically the minimum information that you'll need to take a look at as far as participating with the club all the way on up to this dotted line. But don't stop there, because there's a lot more additional content as we kind of scroll through the rest of the post. But let's take a look at each one of these subgroups and exactly what they are and how to be able to utilize them in your individual program. Alrighty, so first and foremost, you'll see right here at the top is it tells us where we're going to be meeting, on what day, and at what time. Now, it might, for example, here it says County Admin Building, but you're not familiar with where exactly that's at. Don't worry, when you click on this link here, it'll actually open up a map and show you exactly where to go. So we can hit directions and it'll take you exactly to wherever our meeting point is going to be. So that's how you find where we're going to be meeting at. Next up, you'll see around here, it does give you some specific directions about parking that may or may not be included in each week, depending on how confusing it's going to be. As you'll note here, we do core workouts as a group on Tuesdays only. So if that's something that you're interested in participating in, please show up at 6 p.m. Move down next, you'll see that we've got a happy hour listed on this Tuesday run. We're going to be at the waterfront, and then again, it's got the link for the address, so you can click on that and it'll take you to the actual physical location or where to be able to find the waterfront bar and grill at. And then next up is we've got a link for a map. Now, what's listed in this map section will vary a little bit, whether we're using a Strava map, a printed map, something along those lines. But let's go ahead and take a look at this map so you kind of have a sense of what one example of those maps might look like. We click on map, it brings up something that looks similar to this. As you'll note, it's got listed individual mile markers so that you'll know exactly what your mileage is for that particular run. As we scroll back out here, over on the left-hand side, it gives us turn-by-turn directions for the actual run itself, and then what the mileage is for this particular route, and then again, some general estimates on as far as timing is concerned. Now, these maps obviously become more and more complex depending on the length and the mileage that we're out there. So oftentimes I will have these printed out and available for you to take them with you, so you don't necessarily have to have your phone with you, but you will have a printed map to carry with you on each one of these runs. Alrighty, so we've taken a look at the map. Let's go back over here. This is all the information that we've got listed out for Tuesday. Next up, we'll take a look at what we've got listed for Saturday. No, giant changes there other than it just tells you about the new location. We've got a new map location, so it'll take you to exactly where we're going to be at. And then again, we're running at Roadrunner Sports, so it talks a little bit about the website, what time they're going to be doing their clinic on shoe fitting. And then we're going to be going to going to coffee hour after that at a little cafe next door. So kind of list out what exactly the address of that is. Again, if you would like to join us, you're more than welcome to. All right, last couple items I want to hit on here is talk a little bit about these sub items here. The first one is the social events. So if we click on this, we do a social event one Saturday per month. As you scroll through here, it kind of lists out what exactly that social event's going to be. We're going to be going to El Camino. And then example here, we actually have a Facebook event that goes along with it. If you click on this, you can tell us that you're actually going to go. And then again, the actual address about where we're going to be meeting and times and everything else. All right, so that is the social piece. Let's take a look back over here. Next up is articles. Now these articles change almost on a weekly basis depending on where we're at in the training. This example is we're still in the base building phase of our training, so it talks about the benefits of nice, slow, and easy miles from a base building perspective, and then again what to expect from that. Next up is the schedule. This is just an example of what we're going to be asking you to be running every day from the first day of the training until the last day of your race. We're going to go over this in a little bit more detail a little bit later, but just know that it's here. And then next one is our discount page. So in here, you'll see that all the major races are listed here. We've got discount codes for a lot of them as well. And then again, what exactly the percentage or value of the discount is going to be. Lastly, here's some of our social media links. We'll be going over these a little bit further, but just know that they are there. All right, so at minimum, this kind of covers your need to know section related to the club. You know, where we're going to be meeting, what time we're going to be meeting, what we're going to be running, and any other important advice. So for example, like in this one, you also note that I've got things listed in different colors. So Solana Beach, I've got it listed as red. We often run at the Kearney Mesa location for Roadrunner Sports. This particular week, we were running at the Solana Beach location, so I wanted to make sure I clearly identified that. So if there's things like that, you're going to want to make sure that you review this in a little bit more detail. Just referring to the overall schedule, there might be modifications that happen throughout the season, so this post is really going to give you all the details that you need. Alrighty, so now let's move past the need to know section and dive into a little bit more of the meat on the bones related to what the program has to offer. So we always greet you once you get past this little dotted line. We always give you a little greeting message about whatever happened last week or what's coming up in the weeks moving forward. Details about recovery or other items, other things that are going to be relevant to the training. I wanted to bring to your attention this section as it describes a little bit more detail as to what we've got planned for each one of the subgroups. So as you already know by now, there are 3 major groups that are part of the club. We've got the run walk intervals, we've got the intermediate program, and the PR chasers. So based upon this information, you'll be able to start to hone in on which specific program you'll be running with, and then read the most appropriate notes for you as well. Now, we have a group beneath us as well right now. It's the San Diego Half Marathon crew that's be training alongside of us. When we get to the map, when we go back to the schedule a little bit, I'll explain a little bit about when their race is and then why, how that layers into our overall approach as well. Alrighty, so next up, this is kind of an abbreviated version of what we had listed up above. Again, you'll see that we've got the location identified, the starting time, where the happy hour is going to be out, and again, the map. Same type of thing is listed down here for our Saturday run, except additionally, because we're going to be at Roadrunner Sports, it talks a little bit about the discounts and things like that they're going to be offering us when we arrive. Move down a little bit further. Again, sometimes this section is quite long, sometimes it's very short, but you do want to at least glance at it and make sure that you've kind of reviewed and see if there's anything that's relevant or pertains to you. Next up, you got these 2 sections at the very bottom here. Now, I wanted to call these to your attention as to these both specifically relate to parking and or directions to the actual location. Now, generally, we're pretty easy to find. However, occasionally we'll be in a park with a very large set of, with a very big parking lot, and there might even be other groups in the parking lot. So this will kind of give you some things to kind of keep in mind before you arrive as to where to find us and or how to address the parking situation. For example, at the Waterfront Park, you've got some parking that is free starting at 6 o'clock, so we talked about where exactly to do that. And that will review our general overview of how to review your weekly text messages that should arrive on both Mondays and on Fridays just prior to our group runs, which take place on Tuesdays and on Saturdays. Okay, so one of the things I told you that we were going to dive in a little bit more is to take a look at the schedule itself. And so we kind of have a sense about how to actually read it and where to find it. So let's start at the top here. We're going to click on the schedule link. It's going to pull up a page that looks something like this. So first thing that you'll need to know is that the schedule is broken down in two major pieces. The first page here is generally just an overview. It talks about where we're going to be running on Tuesdays, where we're going to be running on Saturdays, if there's a happy hour and or a coffee hour to follow that, what to be doing, what the high level mileage is supposed to be for your Saturday runs, and if there's social events that are happening in the evenings, on Saturday evenings, that'll be listed here as well. Then the second portion that I mentioned is going to be your detailed plan about what you're going to be running each individual day throughout the entire program. So with that, let's dive into each one of those two pages and make sure we've got a good understanding about how to read it. Alrighty, so let's talk about the overview page first and foremost. So let's open this up a little bit and take a look about what exactly it reads. So we are currently in week 3 of the program, and we'll know that by looking down the left-hand side here. We've got the assigned date for that particular day, or the day that we're going to be running. The location. Now we know where we're going to be meeting, so we got the title of it listed here, but if we also click on the actual link in the text message you received, we know that it'll pull up the Google Maps, so we know where we're going to be going. Next up, we've got a happy hour. Those are all listed in green. If there's additional information, for example, right here in orange, we will be reviewing the San Diego Half Marathon course and preparing for the course, so talking about nutrition, hydration, if you've got any questions about the course itself, we'll be doing that actually at this particular happy hour to make sure that we get all your questions answered. So green is all the social events, and then if there's some special topic that we'll be covering at that social event, we'll be doing that in the orange. Alrighty, moving on over. Next up, this is going to be our Saturday group. So you know that because now you can read this large header at the top here. The date that we're going to be running. And then again, across the top, you're going to dive in and take a look at which subgroup are you part of. Are you part of the intermediate run walk, or sorry, the beginning run walk program? Are you part of the intermediate program? Or maybe doing the full or half marathon, depending on which program you're part of. This is generally what you're going to be running on those Saturday runs. And then again, if you notice over here, I'm going to make mention of this specifically to the run walk program. We have both the half and the full marathon. This is the amount of time that you're going to be on your feet for that. So the left hand is going to be the half, on the right is going to be the full marathon, depending on which program you're part of. We'll talk a little bit about what your interval is going to be in the next section. And then over here to the right, we've got our locations for our Saturday runs. Over here, you'll note that this is where, in the green, is where we're going to be doing coffee after the runs. And then the red is where we're going to be listed as our social events for that particular time. So we already looked at the El Camino earlier in our prior video. If we have clinics happening, they're going to help you kind of get prepared for your races. This is where you'll see that those are going to be listed as well. And that is going to cover section 1 of the schedule. Alrighty, so we already talked a little bit about what section 1 includes at a high level on basically what we're going to be doing on Tuesdays and on Saturdays, the prescribed mileage, and then how to read the happy hour location, coffee hour location, clinics, and then where we're going to be meeting for other social events that would be happening on Saturdays. But we've left out half the week, right? Because this is only for Tuesdays and Saturdays. You're going to be running several days on your own throughout this season. So let's take a look about how we identify what we're actually going to be running. All right, so in this example, I'm going to be using the run walk program simply because there's a lot more going on in this one. So if we can understand this schedule, we'll be able to understand all the others. But first and foremost, how do we know that this is the run walk program? And for which program is it, or which major race is it being assigned to? So if we read this header across the top, this is going to be running, preparing for 19 weeks. This is for both the half and the full marathon training program. And then the next subheader is for the beginning run walk program. So if we scroll down a little bit, you'll see that we've got a very similar layout, but this one is going to be for the half marathon in the intermediate training group. So we'll scroll through here, find the header at the top that best applies to you and which program that you're going to be following for the duration of the season. All right, so we've taken a look at the schedules. We've decided that we are going to be following one of the group here. Let's say, for example, in this situation, we are going to be following the run-walk program for either a half or a full marathon. So let's scroll in. Again, since we keep using week 3 as an example, let's dive in and take a look at what they have in store for us. So over here, week 3, we see the date at which that run is going to be taking place at, or the beginning of that week. We've got 2 intervals that are listed here. The first number is referring to walking. The second number is referring to running. So depending on your overall level of fitness, you may decide one group over the other, but also keep in mind you are never required to stick with one program the entire duration of the program. So if you start feeling good and decide that you need to move up to the next level because the prior level was just not quite what you were wanting or needed a little bit more level of effort behind it, you can kind of swap back and forth. And this goes between all the groups. So if you're in the intermediate program and you think it's starting to get just a little bit more challenging for you, by all means, you can drop down to one of the other subsequent programs and or move up too, depending on how you're generally feeling. So as we mentioned, we're going to be doing either 4 minutes of walking followed by 1 minute of running, or 4 minutes of walking followed by 6 minutes of running. As we scroll through the rest of the week, on Monday, we've got a 15-minute run or walk identified for us. On Tuesday, this is the time that we're going to be meeting. We've got 2 numbers listed here. Remember, the left-hand side is going to be the half marathon. The right-hand side is going to be the full marathon. You guys are listed doing 50 minutes for each one of those at the interval of either 4:1 or 4:6. On Tuesday, you've got a 40-minute walk. On Thursday, you've got a 50-minute interval. Again, you're going to be following this interval program. And then again, as we start to look at on the Thursdays, it's 50 minutes for both 2 in the beginning, but as we scroll down a little bit further, if you were doing the full marathon, for example, your Thursday night runs are going to start to get a little bit longer, while the half marathoners are going to be staying at 80, you'd be jumping up to 90 minutes. So just something to kind of keep in mind. All right, so in this particular schedule, we've got Fridays listed as a recovery day. Saturdays is going to be our long run. And this is about minutes, right? So this is time on our feet. Both groups will be doing 70 minutes at the interval that was assigned. And then Sunday, we've got a recovery week. Again, we'll jump down to the fall, next week we'll be at week 4, and we'll start that all over again down here. And then as we notice here, look at this, our interval has actually changed. So last week we were 4:1 or 4:6. Now we're at 3:2 or 3:7. So over time, it'll slowly start to advance till we end up at a 1 minute walk followed by 9 minute run, or 1 minute walk followed by 14-minute run. So they do advance over time. And then again, your total time on your feet for those Saturday runs is slowly going to increase over time as well. So today, I'm generally just discussing what we are going to be, or how to read the schedule for the run-walk program. But just as an example, I'm going to pull up a little bit more of, like, for example, this one is the half marathon intermediate program. So as we open this up, it'll give us a lot more details about what we're planning on running. Again, the format is very similar for the run-walk or for the intermediate program as for the run-walk program, just a little higher level of miles and time on your feet. And obviously, we don't have that interval listed here as well. But by all means, if you're starting to find that this program is a little bit more challenging, you are free to jump either down and or up. For example, here's the PR Chasers. You'll see there's a lot more technical runs that are assigned there. And that's how you read the schedule for the Black Flag Running Club. Alrighty, so I want to just make a real quick note here. Sometimes if you change cell phone carriers, and or you have previously opted out of receiving text messages, not only in my system but other systems out there, you may not be receiving the text messages. So I wanted to walk through real quick a quick video to make sure that you know how to be able to utilize re-entering into the program so that you can start receiving the text messages and know how to follow along. So we're going to start off in this top section here, and you're going to type in 25827. Now this is a short code, and we're going to utilize that here. Now I get text messages all the time in this section, so disregard, you probably wouldn't have it at this point. And then down in this section right here, we're going to opt back in with the code capital B F-L-A-C-K, capital F-L-A-G. So black flag, one word, no space. When we press send on this, it's going to opt us back in, and then we'll start to receive messages moving forward. If for some reason there still continues to be technical issues here, please let me know, and we can talk a little bit about how we want to resolve those. Alrighty, so from here, we've kind of reviewed all the information that's listed in our weekly posts. So these posts become more and more filled with additional content as the season kind of moves along. If, for example, we're week 3, so we're still kind of doing a base build at this point in time. But I do want to kind of draw your attention down to some of this information that we start with may become very relevant to you towards in a later part of the season. So if you go to the bottom here and you click this link at the very bottom, you'll note that it's going to bring you up to a cover page that's basically going to show you all of the prior posts that we have done. So this is going to be very useful for you if for some reason we talked about a stretching program or a nutrition program. For example, there was an article that you wanted to refer back to. You can go back in and take a look at all the prior posts that we did and see if there's something that is relevant for you or to revisit that information. Now, with that, I also wanted to make sure that you're aware of this section. So this is the welcome post that comes out in the very beginning of the season, and this is a good consolidated location of all the information that you may need to refer back throughout the entire season. All right, so in this welcome post, just kind of generally going through, talks a little bit about, here are the 3 groups that are going to be part of the club at this point in time. So you know who the other fellow runners are, what they've been training for, and what they're, kind of where they're at. Just some examples of, how to get the most out of the club. I really want to impress upon reading through this whole piece because, again, the attitude that you bring to the club and your willingness to stretch out of your comfort zone, not only to try something new from a running perspective, but also to meet new people, will help you get the most out of this club. So come into it with a great attitude, and you'll really have an awesome time, and it'll make this entire endeavor of taking on a half or a full marathon a lot more enjoyable. Alrighty, so next up, I kind of want to just make mention, here are all the social media links that we use within the club. So we've got 2 Facebooks. The first one is the overall page for the club. And then the next one is we've got a subgroup. And this is where club members are often posting things like, who wants to get together this Thursday and go for a run? Or maybe they're selling a bib. Things like that will all be taking place in this section. Social media related to Instagram, obviously people are posting all the time. Would encourage you to be active on social media. It's always great to see how people are progressing. We have Twitter. It's not the most active, but we do use it from time to time, so something that you may be interested in following. Not only this video, but other related training videos, for example, stretching, warm-ups, nutrition, all those videos are going to be listed on our YouTube page. Next up, we have Strava. We use this fairly regularly as a tool to not only stay connected with our runners, but to kind of keep track of our overall logged miles and what we're doing from there. And then specifically, I wanted to call to your attention to Runkeeper. This is specifically for the Run Walk program. You're going to be utilizing this quite a bit, so you're going to want to make sure that you download this in advance and have it ready for the first day that you arrive for the program. Alright, so those are some of the social media apps that we often find ourselves using. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about the schedule. So if we click on here, it will actually open up the schedule that we talked about earlier. Here it is. We already learned about, in a prior video, about how to actually review these sheets and get the most out of the schedule. If you haven't looked at that video yet, you're going to want to make sure that you do that here. Alrighty, next up. If for some reason you change cell phone providers or there's something else that happens that is preventing you from getting text messages, you're going to want to make note of this section. You can re-enroll in the text messaging system simply by this bottom section here by typing black flag with no spaces, capital B and F, and send it to a short code of 25827. By doing that, you'll be re-logged into the program, and then you'll start to receive the text messages moving forward. All right, so this welcome message generally is coming out before the first time that we meet. So there is some examples of it, just kind of describing for new runners what to expect when they first arrive. So we talked a little bit about how to get in the right headspace to get the most out of the club here. But as we scroll down here, on your first day, I've kind of listed a little bit about what to expect on that first day. quick icebreaker. If you've got any questions for me, I'll be there as well. We'll do a dynamic warm-up, pair off into our subgroups, which we talked about those previously, is the Run Walk program, the intermediate group, and or the PR Chasers, what the plan is for that group, and kind of what you should be bringing with you and what to anticipate. So again, you're going to want to read through this if you're new to the club and have never been here previously. Move through here, a little bit more information about registration as it is still currently open. And then towards the very bottom again, you'll see that link so that if we needed to, we could go back and jump right back into week 3 if we wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry, it's at the very bottom here. So as you scroll to the bottom, we can click here, jump page forward. Here we are back again at week 3 if we wanted to jump back to that post. So occasionally I get requests because they don't from individuals that don't often use text messages in their day-to-day life. They much prefer to review information like this on a desktop computer. So I'm going to continue to send this stuff on a weekly basis on both Mondays and on Fridays. But if you want to take a look at this information in a more traditional desktop computer format, you could always go up here, select all, copy the entire URL, and then send it to yourself via email, and then save it to your favorites in your desktop, and then you'll be able to utilize those for, to go back and refer throughout the season. Now, keep in mind is that the programs and the web posts are season specific. So the only way that I'm going to send you the link is going to be if you are enrolled in this particular program, Spring 2020, for example. And then at the end of the Spring 2020 program, you'll stop receiving the text messages, and then you'll no longer be able to, you can go back and review the information that came out in 2020, but no new additional information moving forward. Alrighty, so now you know everything that you need to know about how all the information is organized and how it's being delivered to you, again, on those Mondays and on those Fridays. So again, welcome to the club. If you have any questions whatsoever, please let me know. You can shoot us messages on Instagram, on Facebook. You can shoot us an email to coach@blackflagrunningclub.com, and or if I see you out at one of these runs, by all means, maybe even show up a little bit early. I try to get there earlier than everybody else so that I do have time to answer those questions. So thank you again for being part of this family. We're looking forward to getting to know you a lot more over these coming weeks and helping you achieve your goals of either training for a half, full, marathon, or possibly even a 5K or a 10K. Alrighty, have a great run. We'll see you out there soon.